Hi there, so in this video I'm going to draw a tortoise using my small kit, watercolor kit. So here I have my paints and palette, I have my brush, a piece of watercolor paper, pencil, water in a jar, and a paper towel. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is draw the shell of the tortoise. So I'll just draw a simple half circle like that. And then I'll draw the legs, and then the neck and head, and the eye. And the last thing I'll do is I'll draw, the shapes on the shell itself. I'm going to simplify it a little bit, so I'm just going to draw something like this. And that'll be the shell of the tortoise. So let's go ahead and paint that. So the first thing I want to do is paint the shell itself. And so I'm going to get my water, and I want to mix a brown here. So, again, remember that there's a color wheel that's available on the website. I'm just going to pull it out here. And if you look at this, you can see, what we want is something like this, but maybe a little less bright. So this is permanent rose and the yellow. So we're going to do that, and then we'll add a little bit of the green, which is the complementary color to the rose, and that way we'll get this kind of a duller orange shell. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll start by just getting a little of the permanent rose over there, and then get some yellow. And the permanent rose is a really strong color, and so I don't want it to overpower the yellow. So I'm kind of just putting the yellow to one side, and then I'll, mix in a little bit of the permanent rose and see what that does. Okay, so that seems quite orange already. And now, actually what I'll do is, since we have an orange, the complementary color to orange is blue, so I'll go ahead and add a little bit of blue, and you can see how that's dulling that color down nicely. I'm gonna add a little bit more of that yellow and rose, just because I don't want it to be quite so dull. And then I'm going to paint a pretty light layer on the shell. So the way I'm doing that is by adding water to lighten the paint. And this is how you would typically lighten colors in watercolor, is by just adding water to them. There you go. So that looks great, a pretty light layer there, and then we'll put more layers on top that'll be darker. But let's wait for that to dry, and then we'll come back to it. Okay, my first layer looks quite dry. I'm going to go ahead and start painting the head and the legs of the tortoise. So for that, I'm going to get a green, and so just get a little bit of green on my palette. And I think this green looks too cool to be right for the tortoise. So I'll look at my color wheel or color grid again, and you can see what I'm looking for is closer to here. So I'm looking for a warmer green, and the way I'll do that is by adding the yellow to it. So you can see that green is looking warmer, lighter, but it still looks a little too bright. So what I'm going to try is adding a little bit of the rose, of just a dot. And the rose and the green are complementary colors, which means they're opposite on the color wheel. So if I add a complementary color in, it's going to make things a little duller, a little less saturated, which is what we want here. So again, I'm being very gentle because I don't want to overdo it. So I'm introducing just a hint of the rose. Let's add a little more yellow, and then just a touch of the rose. And you can kind of see I dab it to one side so I can, instead of putting it straight into the green, because I want to see what it looks like. Okay, so now I have a green that looks a little duller, which is perfect for what I need. So I'm just going to start putting it down, and you can see that looks a little more realistic than a very bright green would have looked. Cool. That's starting to look really nice. And you can see that the body looks darker than the shell itself, but in the next step we're going to go ahead and make the shell a little darker as well, and then it won't look so different. So I've got the body done. I'm going to go back and focus on the shell, and so I'll make that combination again, which was the rose and the yellow. And remember, that gave me that nice orange. And then if I want to dull that down a little more, the complement of orange is blue, so I'll just take a little dot of the blue and add it in. And I may have gone too far, so I'm gonna put some more yellow there to kind of bring it back. And so it's kind of a back and forth until you find a color that looks right to you. So I have this nice darker color now. And what I'm going to do is I have the lines on the turtle, and I'm going to paint a blob just between those lines. So I want to leave a little bit of space showing, and that will give you a sense of the pattern on the turtle shell. And as you're doing this, be careful not to put this brown too close to the green if the green is still wet, otherwise it'll get sucked into the green. that looks really nice. So the last couple of things I want to do are paint in the eye of the turtle and then paint a little shadow under the turtle. And so I want a black for that. And the way I'm going to make my black is just take a little bit of the rose, which I have here, and then take a little bit of the green. And again, those are two complementary colors, and they mix to a very nice kind of a grayish black. And I think it's going to be just right for what I need here. So I've mixed that, and I'm going to take that and use it to paint the eye, and I want the eye to be pretty dark. So that looks right. And then I'm going to water it down quite a bit because I don't want the shadow to be anywhere as dark. So I'm going to water that down quite a lot, and what I have is a light gray, and I'm going to use that to paint a shadow under the tortoise. There you go. So that's my tortoise video with the small kit. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching.